We often think of landscape design as a way to beautify a yard, but it's so much more than that. Designers can use plants and hardscapes to guide us through a space and define specific areas. To see some examples of this, I'm meeting landscape designer Carol Heffernan at her bungalow studio. It's next door to her house. Carol has combined both yards to make an impressive showcase yard in her cozy Chicago neighborhood.
So we've got a 75-foot or greater front yard, no backyard at all, but so this is a big, enormous space for even a backyard in the city. I wanted to have a bit of a modern, clean design, but I also wanted it to play well with the house, which we sort of renovated into a craftsman-style cottage. So it has very rectilinear bones and the plants are all linear, but it still reads as a traditional garden. And it showcases pretty much everything that we can do. Masonry, patios, pergolas, water features, you name it, and plantings, of course.
So it's basically your outdoor showroom.
It's a showroom, right. So I wanted a client to be able to come into this place and it would feel like a space they'd want to have in their own yard instead of just a display yard. Just like you'd hire an architect to do your house. You don't want them to just design the bathroom unless that's all you're going to do. But you want them to design the whole space so that every space relates to the next one and everything flows well. You naturally follow the path or whatever, and it feels good. You can't name why, but it just feels good.
We'll start our journey through the yard at the vestibule area just off the sidewalk.
You're greeted at the street when you come to the front gate. There's a bank of roses and nepeta, which is a really pretty perennial. So in the summertime, it's really colorful. And then you come up to this hedge, which is barricades your vision as the two intersecting hedges are like this, but so that you walk through them.
Yeah.
So it opens up to you, but to the outside, it just looks like a wall. As you come through the hedge, then the whole view opens up to you.
That view is of Carol's office and a beautiful outdoor living room.
We built a big fireplace that has seat walls, and the seat walls kind of envelop the space as two big arms, if you will. Behind the fireplace, there's some really big junipers that sort of separate the properties, my property, the original space, from this, so that this becomes its own little space, even though there's no border, theoretically, between them. Reflecting on the opposite side of the patio, I wanted something that was a visual counterpoint to that, and so we built this kind of funky trellis thing that's made out of big timbers and horizontal metal bars, so it's not the usual, rick-rack kind of trellis. And also that was to help sort of screen this giant expanse of the neighboring building, along with the big hornbeam trees that are giant, and they do the job. They're now almost 3 stories tall, and I can't see any of the building, which makes me happy.
Leaving the outdoor living area, we follow geometric bluestone steppers under the canopy of a Jane magnolia tree that transitions to the original gardens at Carol's house. Foliage color and texture are important features in both yards, as flowers can be short-lived, but the foliage lasts all season. Unlike the office yard, the majority of Carol's own yard was never formally designed, but just happened over the years, especially in the small side yard.
The entry to the original backyard was on the side there, so we put in a new sidewalk, and then I just started collecting plants, and I love kind of unusual conifers, were sort of a passion of mine. And so there's a lot of oddball one of eaches over there.
And now we're in the backyard, your personal space. What are we seeing here? This is a beautiful area.
Well, we have a bluestone patio that's on an angle, and then the pergola is on the same angle as the patio, which is 45 degrees to my house. And so it cantilevers everything, which is kind of a nice little twist of the space. A lot of these plants, they were pretty big when we put them in, maybe 8, 10-foot trees. They weren't little skimpy things, but it's been now 15, 20 years that some of them are in, and so they're actually getting too big. They're ginormous. Leading off the patio to go into that part of the yard, the patio used to stop right here, and this was a circle of grass. And we took these big patterned pieces of bluestone, which kind of started to break up the patio and walk off, as you will, towards the other space, which is kind of cool.
Now there's one section of the yard that you haven't seen. Around the corner from the pergola is the other side of the yard. There's a rustic stone and brick path that leads to a secret woodland garden. It's tight back here, but Carol has found a way to make use of all of the space. And at the end of the garden, there's an urn and a pedestal sitting beneath a flowering dogwood tree. It's kind of the prize at the end of the garden, and it's landscape design that got you here.